Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
Yo, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages? As we always say, it's your hostess with the mostest, Pastor Keenan Riley, PKR, back with another episode of People Suck, Love 'Em Anyways. And I am always joined. I don't think I've ever done an episode by myself because I can't do an episode by myself. So
It's very true.
So I am always joined by my sidekick, Nicky Nick. How's it going, man?
Oh, pretty good actually. Pretty good. I'm enjoying the weather. It's been warmer lately.
It has been warm. I'm very
sick
thankful
of the rain,
for
though.
that. I am, man. I'm sick of the rain. But the weather has been good, man. I done a wedding yesterday, and I don't want to complain about it being too hot already. But it was about 83 yesterday in the sun, and I sweated through my suit, man. I ain't gonna lie about it. But I felt like we were out in the sun for a pretty legit long period of time. But I tell you, man, I want a good winter. So that way we don't have to deal with as many bugs during the summer.
That's fair.
I feel like that's very fair. We're already seeing like ants this year.
I saw them outside on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
earlier.
Last summer I don't feel like we dealt with as many ants and stuff. But like this year it's been warm. Unseasonably warm, I feel like, for winter, and then we've had a lot of rain, dude. We've had so much rain. That it's just kind of
makes it, because I'm in the process of putting a house out, so that makes it very difficult to get anything done.
Right, absolutely. It's just one hurdle after another hurdle after another hurdle. And if you don't know, Nick has taken as long as humanly possible to move out of his in-laws' house and to get his own home. He has his own home, kinda.
Just can't live in it yet.
Yeah, exactly. It is now there, ready.
It's there. Yep.
Yeah, ready to be. I guess.
We're almost ready.
I wanted to say electrolyzed, maybe.
Electrolyzed.
Yeah. He's,
it's ready to be electrocuted.
Yeah.
Put the electric in it.
Put the electric in it so you can live in there, man. So good things are coming, though, right?
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming along. Slowly,
very
surely.
slowly. Yeah, absolutely.
I've been telling everybody, I said every time I put a date on it, God's like, nope.
Yeah.
So I was
he
like,
just
all right.
wants to like try your patience and your faith just a little bit longer,
And then I have to sit down here because of you and be like, thank you, God, for this battle. Thank you for everything I'm going through. Thank you for the waiting. Thank you for this.
Yeah, it's like, thank God for the really sucky things. That's what we talked about today. I was thanking God for sucky things, not in maybe those words, but yeah, I mean, thanking God for just the difficulties and the battles. It's a tough situation to do. It's something that we can get a lot better at, for sure, every single day. But that's a lot of what we talked about today, was the fact of that. And I say this through every video, through every podcast, through Sundays, whatever, that I am probably the biggest critiquer of church that there is, because I feel like we have to get a lot better every single time that we walk in here. But one thing that I feel like that we do need to get better on is telling people about the flip side of serving God. And what I mean by that is that, we talk about blessings and breakthroughs and opportunities and God overflowing and God doing and working and moving. And all of that is true. God can do all of that in amazing forms and fashion. But we hardly ever tell anybody about battles, frustrations, angers, disappointments, things like that. And because I believe it's because we know that if we were to talk about that, people are not going to be nearly as engaged, enthused, or maybe even to come back if they heard a sermon like that. But
it's tough. I mean, I think there's certain things that I think people could admit to struggling with, and it would definitely change people's viewpoint of you. You know, like it's just, you know, like if you were to come into a church service and be like, you know, I'm struggling with cocaine addiction, or I'm struggling with, I wipe your nose off. You know, I'm
for the people who didn't see that.
For the people who didn't see it. But you know, like to me, and I think you can understand what I'm saying, is like, you know, it's different to say I'm struggling with an alcohol addiction. You know, I'm struggling with alcoholism versus I'm struggling with a porn addiction. You know, like if you were to come into a church and say I'm struggling with a porn addiction, you know, I feel like then, you know, you'd have, you know, Susie, let's not go over there today, or, you know, like hey, you know, I'm gonna cover up with a blanket when I come into church from now on.
You pervert.
Yeah, right. And, like I think there's certain things, you know, and again, what's sad is that, you know, what I'm talking about is, you know, those people that would judge you for it. And the thing is, they would. I mean, like, you know, and I think, you know, it's again there is condemnation here, but not in Christ. You know, like people may judge you, people may look at you bad, but, you know, if God told you to confess something, and he would, you know, if God told you today that if you walked into church and confessed that you were struggling with something that serious, or, you know, something that, you know, risque, or however you want to say it, and he's like, hey, if you come up on, you know, to the altar and you confess that with your mouth, I will free you from it today.
Yeah.
But instead we're like, I don't know what, you know, that lady over there is going to say about it. I don't know if they're ever going to look at me the same. And even if you're freed of it, you know, like even if you're freed of that battle, will people look at you the same?
I think too, because like we're gonna take it in a way of like, you talk about drugs, you talk about alcohol, but then you talk about pornography. I think it's like you can go with drugs and alcohol, you can just go straight to the source. You know, it's like, all right, we'll stop buying alcohol, you know, or stop buying drugs, or whatever the case is. You know, with let's talk about a porn addiction just for a second. It goes so much deeper than that, and I think that again with drugs and alcohol and with pornography or whatever addiction that you're currently in or whatever battle you're facing, I think we all go through that for the simple fact of we try to cover and mask what the true problem is. You know, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's pornography, or what's something else people can be addicted to? Shopping, gambling, things like that. I think it's an escape from the reality of the true pain that they're going through. And you know, where maybe it seems like a simple answer is to quit buying alcohol, or, you know, quit buying drugs or whatever.
Delete the app.
Yeah, it's like it goes so much deeper than just doing that. You know, there's
God has that deeper connection where people don't.
Yeah.
You know, people are so surface level to see the problem rather than understand that there's something underneath that problem that they need help with, just like there's something underneath your problems that you need help with.
Yeah. And where people, you know, we get into talking about battles like we did today, where people really struggle the most is that, again, we have these services where, like, you are going to be blessed and highly favored, and, you know, you were made to be the head and not the tail, and you were made to be blessed, you know, in the fields and in the workplaces and the home place and all of this good stuff. And it's like, those are really good shout me down moments that are in the Bible. I mean, they are true. But so is David facing Goliath in a battle. So is, you know, Moses leading the children of Israel out of Egypt in many battles. So is, you know, like what we talked about today with Elijah, you know, watching 850 false prophets being slain, but yet at the same point in time, Jezebel putting a hit out on him and putting a target on his back. You know, and so it's like whenever we have these battles, these situations that are going on in our lives, they can become very frustrating. They can become deteriorating to our faith. They can literally just drain us. The more that we face, the more that we become drained. And we see that in the text today from 1 Kings 19 that, you know, that Elijah had become so drained by what he was going through and seeing and experiencing that he ran. We talked about the fight or flight process today. But he was so drained by this that he literally ran, and then he was ready to end it all. He was ready to just lay down and die. Because of how he felt and because of just being tired, and he was angry and he was frustrated and he was scared. And I think that comes from us not being able, as a people, to not process emotion correctly. I know you know a lot more about that than what I do. You did go to college. Sometimes. I did not, kinda. I went for a little while. But anyways, but, you know, people that cannot process their feelings correctly will turn to outlets to try to release that energy and whatever energy that may be. So, like, whenever people drink or they do drugs or they watch porn or they gamble or they, shop or whatever, it's like as soon as you make that purchase or as soon as you take that drink or as soon as you, whatever the case is, pop a pill or whatever, it's like you just
instant gratification.
It's like a, it's like, you can almost breathe again. And I felt like in Elijah's case, whenever he made it, a day away, basically, from where he was at, it was almost like to a point of where whenever he laid down and he prayed, God, this is it, take my life, I'm done, whatever. In that moment, it was almost just like a, like
just
this is it.
Everything out.
Yeah, this is it. This is the exhale. This is the moment where I'm just done. I'm done. But Elijah did something really good too, because even though he was talking about killing himself or talking about God taking him out, he went to God. If there's anything good that you can kind of take from that, from those verses and from those sentences right there, it is the fact that he went to God in the process, and told his feelings and basically said what was on his heart. And our biggest problem is, like what you say, we come into these places.
There are the sirens every week.
This is so crazy, man. Like, we literally live in like a town of 1,500 people, I feel like. And yes, every Sunday while we're taping.
Even when we did it on Tuesdays. Every Tuesday.
3:53 p.m. While we're taping this, Eastern Standard Time, there is sirens. And it's like the crime rate is zilch. I don't even know. Like, I don't know if they just know we're taping and they just come by and buzz the church a couple of times. But getting back to it, I feel like you said, we come into a place, a house of worship, where we are supposed to identify our problems, our fights, and our battles, and we sit so collectively put together, and so comfortable, and so like, I mean, it's almost like an existence just to be happy to be here. I'm happy to be here today, and it's like, so you're going to stay in chains and bondage. Well, I'm just happy I made it here. And it's like, I get it. That's a fight. That's a battle. You won that battle. You're here. But now, what are the next battles? What are the next situations? What are we not identifying that can get you even further along in your walk and in the kingdom of God?
Yeah, I really like the, comparison that you gave in service today about David. And the two different battles that he fought that are well known, but we don't really look at them both together very often.
Yeah, absolutely.
The idea that, David fighting Goliath, that was a battle. Was he going to have the faith to stand up to this giant and, allow God to slay it? And then we think about David with Bathsheba, up on that roof, that battle against his lust, against his selfish desires. Those are both battles, and one of them was praiseworthy. One of them was, crazy. He won. It's awesome. We shout about it. We talk about it all the time. It's in all the praise and worship songs, all that stuff. But then there's the battle that he lost. That's true. He was ashamed to tell anybody of.
Yeah.
He tried to hide it by letting the actual husband of this lady come and do stuff with her that he didn't even do because his soldiers were out there not having time home.
And then he sent him out. Like, the story goes so much more in depth, because then he sends him out and puts him on the front lines.
And then tells everybody else to pull back.
Yeah. I mean, like the depth of the story takes so many twists and turns, and it's all because of, again, we look at the heroic, David and Goliath battle, and we're like, man, David was such a warrior. And then we see a story where, a different battle, same guy, different battle, and he lost because of his flesh, because of his desires, and because of sin in general. And because of that battle, it shows us that nobody's immune to them, that, yes, that one battle ends, but you know what? Another battle is going to begin. And that's what we have to do as a church, to prepare people, to let people know. And whether you go to church or not, or whether you're just stumbling on this podcast for the first time and this is the episode that you listen to, I wish we could bring you great news and be like, you find Jesus, you get saved, and everything is wonderful. Wish we could be like that. But it's actually...
Live your best life today.
Yeah, but it's actually quite opposite. You're going to find Jesus, And there's going to be a battle. There's going to be a struggle. There's going to be I won't say but there's going to be multiple situations that pop off in your life because the devil is trying to get you to veer from what God has called you to do. And if he can get you to quit, to throw in the towel, or to stop early, then he has succeeded. But if you conquer one giant, one battle, I know, like you talk about your sickness, how you used to be sick all the time, and you've been to the doctor twice this year? Once this year, and for Nick, once in
Actually,
a year.
It was last year.
Okay, so once in a year going last year. How many you been this year?
0.
Bam.
I don't have insurance.
That's it's a lot more expensive. So yeah, I'm definitely not going unless I'm dying or need a transplant. Absolutely. 10,000. We're still looking for 10,000 out there, guys. Whoever's got 10K on their heart. So me and Nick will divide it 5 apiece. 8-2, actually.
Hey, listen here. You couldn't do this without me.
I know this is true. This is true, man. But what we have to tell people is that whenever you find Jesus, that the enemy's going to try to disrupt your life. He's going to try to disrupt your calling. He's going to try to disrupt all of that. And like for Nick, his health was a major issue starting out. He was at the doctor all the time. And then all of a sudden, it's like, all right, man, I'm going to trust God more. I'm going to do more. I'm going to invest. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then it's like now he's starting to gain victory and gain traction over his health. Fantastic. Well, you know what happens I'm telling your story, by the way. I'm narrating your story. And then what happens? I always
imagine it sounded like Morgan Freeman, but
yeah, I don't get paid to do voiceovers like that. But then what happens, like you literally now, it's like you've been through this whole house ordeal now for like a year and a half, And it's like, I know like living in a confined area with other people for a year and a half, one bathroom, like, whew, I pray for you, man. Like
most people would have killed themselves by now.
I've always said this. I will trade any bedroom in the house to have an extra bathroom, man. Like straight up. So it's like now you're facing a different battle, and you know what? Like you said, the house is there. We're waiting on some stuff now. Guess what? That house is going to be done, and so now you have better health. Now you have a home. What do you think's going to happen? The enemy's going to come at you in a different area now. And I know, right? And as much as what we were going to be like, well, you're speaking death, or well, this and that, it's like, no, man, that is what he is designed to do.
Yeah, but what's crazy is, you can sit there and you can say that you're speaking death, but you're not. You're speaking victory, because there's going to be victory after whatever comes, and I think that's one of those things, where that comes with faith. As you've said with this process, and we've talked about this before too, about, when you're sick, it feels like an eternity. When you're waiting for that change to happen, that betterment to come, as we've been waiting for this house to get finished up, it feels like it's taking forever. But then, when you finally get healthy and you're looking back, it's just such a small, minuscule amount of time. Right. You're when you're living in the blessing, all that time in the darkness just doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah.
It was such a small amount of your life and a small amount of time, but at the moment, it felt insane.
Like
it felt
eternity.
crazy. Exactly. Yeah. And I talk to kids about this too. All these people who are so, these kids who are in high school and they're so caught up in relationships, and my whole life is over because so and so broke up with me, or this one friend stabbed me in the back, or this, that, and the other. It feels like the end of the world. And I was like, look, you guys don't realize that this is like, the prologue to your life.
Yeah.
If you've ever read the prologue or the introduction of a book, it's just that small little section in the beginning.
How old are you?
How old am I? 26.
26.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's just like such a small little moment in your life, such a small little moment in time. This year and a half we've been waiting for this house. If I live to be 80, that's nothing. Like that's nothing.
Yeah.
No huge part of my life. And it's just so many of these things that we allow to be so much bigger than they actually are, because we're in the moment, we're dealing with it here. But again, going back to what I was saying originally, you can speak death and say, okay, once this battle's over, and you see victory in this area, you're going to face another battle. But, and again, it takes a maturity of faith to say it this way, but, you should almost be rejoicing because at the end of this battle, you're going to look back and it's not going to be as monumental as it felt. Yeah. And you're going to be living in victory. You're going to be living in, so many more blessings, that you couldn't see at the time, but now that you're looking back, you're thankful for where you're at and what happened.
I asked you how old you were for a reason. I'm going to use your identity. So you're 26, and I liked what you said about how whenever you look back, it won't seem like or feel like near as long as what you was in the moment. And so, like we talked about, your home, for instance, and I just put 1.3 in, for a year and 3 months. Let's just say that. And, that equivalates out to 5% of your lifetime on this earth. So, like, literally 5% of your time has been dealing with the house. Well, you know what? There is 95% of your life that you've spent doing something else. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if you really think about it and look at it like that, like, what is the time frame? What is the period? And like you said, if you really put it into perspective in numbers like that, you're like, wow, 95% of my life was spent doing something else. Mm-hmm. But yet we look at it like, God, that was such a mountain, and that was such a battle, and that was such a giant to face. And, and I had to live a year and 3 months or whatever with my in-laws. And God, I never thought I was going to. And it's like, that's 95% of your life was spent doing something else. And so for battles and situations like that, I'm glad you said that, because it puts into perspective about numbers and situations where it's like, we're going to look back on this one day and it's like, yeah, it was a season and it was a time and it was a battle and it was a situation, but even with building a church and even with planting a church and even with things like that, like, there's going to be battles no matter what you do. And so, we're going to have great times, but we're also going to have bad times. And I used to think about that. Like, I used to be like, God, like, what are we doing wrong? Like, what are we doing wrong? Because it felt like a battle. I mean, like, we have a podcast before we have a podcast every week. We have conversations and topics and whatever. And, and one of the conversations and topics today was, before we got started, was, like, God, like, what are we doing wrong? Like, what, why aren't people coming in, and why aren't people, volunteering, or why aren't people doing this, and why aren't people taking the reins, and why aren't this, and why aren't that? And it's like, it's a battle today. And it is a battle, but like, at the end of the day, there's going to be a point in time where people rise up, where people do take the reins, where people do start doing stuff and things like that. And it's like, then we'll look back and go, well, how long did it take to do that? Well, 6 months or 8 months or whatever the case is. So, then you take that time and you divide it into the time that the church has been here. And it's like, whatever, like 3% of the time the church has been here, this is what we struggle with. Well, it's like, what did you do the other 97%, And for us, I think it's that's a good way maybe to put it into perspective about how minute or how small your battles can be. Like, I have this saying that I always live by: if you're going to make a mountain out of a molehill, be ready to die on that mountain. I've told you that. I tell people that all the time. But I think that in life that we do have a lot of molehills that we make into mountains because of how maybe uncommitted we are to reading the Bible or to praying or to God in general, to the kingdom, whatever. But I do feel like that very little sensible battles sometimes become huge ordeals in our lives because we're not prepared. And again, I truly feel like, going back to the church, I feel like that it should be our job to at least get the knowledge out there and to get the information out there to help better prepare people to face battle.
And I think that's one reason testimonies are so important. I think, last week we talked about a lot of the testimonies that were given during service, and I think that's why testimonies are so important, is because you can say, look at what God did, and because of what God did, I have faith that He's going to do it again,
right?
Like what you said, just because I've had a battle in one area of my life, I'm now experiencing blessings on the other side of it. Even though I am in the midst of another battle,
right,
I have faith that one day I'm going to be looking back and be grateful for what happened, be grateful for that it was such a small amount of time. where it could have been longer. I mean, and I think that we talk about that all the time about, neglecting how much we have to be thankful for.
Yeah.
It just, you take, just the amount of time that you live healthy compared to the amount of time you live sick is just a great example of that.
Right.
Like, again, when you're in the moment of it, that molehill may look like a mountain. It may feel like a mountain.
Yep.
But, then you get a little bit distanced away from that, after you've gotten through it and you look back and it's just so small.
Yeah.
You're like, I remember when that used to be such a huge issue in my life.
Right.
I remember when that used to be such a big problem, but God brought me out of it. God has taken me from where, God has taken me from where it felt and looked like a mountain to where it feels and looks like a molehill.
Yeah.
Or an ant stump.
Right,
or whatever
right,
you call
right.
it. And so, it's just, I think we have to have that faith, that, this battle, it has a purpose, and again, I think that's very difficult for us to get because we're in the middle of it. It looks big. It looks scary. It's, tormenting. It's a little scary and it causes fear and anxiety and all these sorts of things. But we have to, I guess what I'm trying to say is when we're in the middle of these battles, we have to remember that one day it's going to be a molehill.
Yeah.
One day we're going to look back on this battle. And I know it doesn't feel like it when you're in the middle of it. And it's a secret that I have yet to unlock. I'll just be 100% honest. We're talking about it a lot,
Yeah.
but when we're in the midst, there's still days right now where, the house is sitting out there. It's almost done. And I'm still like, God, is this ever going to happen?
Yeah,
Is this ever going to end? It seems like it gets pushed further and further out. And, in those times when you're sick and you're like, God, I'm tired of being sick. I've been sick for 2 weeks. What is going on? I know I'm going to get better. I have faith I'm going to get better. I know, the outcome is going to be good. I know I'm going to experience blessings. I know that this isn't going to last forever. But God, it feels like it's lasting forever.
Right.
And I think that those are those moments that we just need to ask God for strength, and we need to have Him renew us. And it kind of ties back into the message that we're talking about with, Elijah, being tired and worn out and weary, and he prays to God and calls out to God, just kill me, God. I can't take this anymore. I'm done. I'm tired. I'm frustrated. And then God allows him to rest, and then God allows him to be fed and allows him to drink and allows him to rest and relax and recoup.
Right. Yeah.
And I think there's so many times, and I will speak, from my own perspective, that I will ask God, I'll be in the middle of some, battle, in the middle of some frustrating time or, whatever it may be. And there'll be times that I'll pray to God. I'll just be like, God, just give me something exciting today. Some small victory, some small win, something to just help motivate me, to help push me, to help keep me going.
Yeah.
And we can't be afraid to ask for God for those little things. We always ask God for these big things. Get me out of this battle, instead of God, give me the strength to get through this battle.
Right.
God, give me something else. Give me that extra push, that extra little oomph of motivation to get through this battle, to keep going, to not give up. We can't be afraid to ask God for those small little things to help keep us, moving, to help keep us going. With the house, I get news that this part's been done. Okay, thank God. We got one more part done. We're on our way. Yeah. We get sick, and then we have one day where we can breathe again. And we're like, okay, thank God. I was able to rest tonight without feeling miserable or something like that. We have to be thankful for the little moments during these big battles.
Yeah.
That help get us to the other side of those battles.
Right. One thing that wasn't even a part of the service today, but just in talking to people as I was going around shaking hands this morning, was just the fact of that mindset is everything.
Mm-hmm.
This is not even really spiritual, but it's just like I was telling people today, like, you want to be spiritual. I believe in God. I rely on God, man. I trust God. But like mindset, man, is so important with just the fact of how you choose to view things and the perspective in which you have on things. You're either the glass is half full or half empty. It's just it's the perspective in which you have of things. And we can allow our minds, man. Our minds are so finicky. And we can see a situation and get instantly depressed. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. We can have such a great day, see one situation, and get instantly depressed. Or the other way around, where we could literally be crying all day over something, hear a song, or hear a joke, or see something, and it's like our mind responds with this instant, laugh, or this instant like, oh, it's a feel good moment. And our minds, man, our perspective should always be that God is in control, that God is working things out, that nothing has caught him by surprise, even though it caught us by surprise. I look at like I don't know if there's a running joke or not, but like my wife and I will always look at each other a lot and be like, well, could it get any worse? What's happening today? House catching on fire? What's going on? I mean, what are we doing today? Just, wind going to come through and knock us down? Nobody else? What are we doing? Is it just raining over our house all the time? But
people call me negative.
I know, right, man? Well, the house is the only place I can get to be negative. I got to be a cheerleader for everybody else all the time. But the mindset is always the same. And she asked me a good question the other day. We were talking about stuff, and she's like, do you believe that God can? That was the question she asked me. She's like, do you believe that God can? And I said, I absolutely believe that God can. I said, I believe that God can. I believe that he could. I believe that he should. I believe that he would. I said, but the question, and where I always get caught up at, is like a lot about what I preached about today is what am I not doing correctly to begin with? That's where, and I tell people all the time, I'm very honest about this. Every message I preach is a message I need to hear myself. I needed to hear today's message just like everybody else did, because I get caught up in the fact of that if things are hell in a handbag, hot trash on fire in a ditch somewhere, I'm like, what have I done wrong? You know what I mean? Like where am I missing the boat? Yep. Where am I missing the hand of God? What am I not? Like, God, just tell me and I'll do it. Tell me. I mean, I've never been the type, maybe whenever I first started out in ministry, where God would ask me to do something, I'd be like, I don't know, man. My Sunday nights or my Wednesday nights or whatever, I'm pretty doing this or that. But as I've grown older and more mature in ministry, I feel like if God was like, hey, man, I need you to travel to St. Louis and preach on the corner somewhere, I'd be like, all right, let's do it, and because that's just I want to be obedient. So when times in my life or in my family or whatever, get disruptive, the first thing I want to do is step back and go, what am I doing? Or what are we doing? Or what's going on that God is allowing this to go on? And, the message today really just kind of center points on myself and hopefully everybody else that'll hear this. And it's sometimes, man, it's not about what you're doing wrong, but, the more that you follow in the will of God, the enemy is going to attack different areas and phases of your life. For us, man, and for me personally, things like that, it's I've had to watch different areas of my life fall apart, and so other areas of my life could come together. And I know that doesn't make a lot of sense because you're like, well, shouldn't everything just be working accordingly to the glory of God? And it's like, hey, if you're more religious and angelic than what I am, then hey, grow you a set of wings and fly around. I don't know, but
67 eyeballs. And
oh man, that's a whole nother conversation, man. But one thing that I feel like that everybody struggles with is balance. And I've always heard this. I heard a message preached one time. It's like if you're killing it in one area, you're probably sucking it up in another, and it's true. If you're working your hind end off, if you're at your job 7 days a week, guess what? Your home life probably sucks because you're never there. If your home life is hey, it's on fire, man. I get to see my kids and wife every day. I spend 24 hours a day with them. Then you're like, are you really working? You're probably going to be homeless here in about a month or 2 months. So there's always that balance that needs to be there. But at the same point in time, it's again, going back to what we talked about today, if you are succeeding in one area of your life, then there's going to be another area out there that the enemy's going to be like, you know what? All right, so you have the faith now. Nick has the faith now that, you know what? I don't have to go to the doctor every week. I don't have to be sick all the time. So you know what? All right, I got you, bro. So let me go somewhere else. Let me start messing with you somewhere else. And then that happens. And you're like, what am I doing wrong, God? What am I doing wrong? And what we talked about today is that every battle that you win, it throws an automatic red flag to the enemy, to the devil. And that red flag is him going, well, now they got a victory. They got momentum. They got, their faith is increased. They saw this battle through. They won. Now they're going to become an even bigger threat to the kingdom of darkness. Not the kingdom of God, but the kingdom of darkness. So what happens? He dispatches all his little minions and all his little plans and all this good stuff, and they're going to come after you. They're going to come after you. And so if you won today in the physical, if you won today, let's just say your game plan was to lose 50 pounds. You lost 50 pounds. Fantastic. Well, you know what? What if he dispatches his little minions to come at you today where you can't afford the groceries to eat right anymore? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And you're like, man, thank God that I feel better about my health, but now I don't have the means to pay for it. And then you're sitting here wondering, like, God, what did I do? Like, did I do all of this work for nothing? Did I invest all of this for nothing? And now the enemy's trying to disrupt you. You know, and it doesn't have to be, like, again, from physical to financial. We say there's 4 pillars of life, Nick. What are they?
Physical, emotional, mental, or financial.
There we
spiritual.
Go. There we go. Yes, sir. He's got it, man. So, you know, there's 4 areas that we always talk about: physical, financial, emotional, spiritual. That's it. And in those 4 areas, if you're succeeding, knocking it out of the park in one, doesn't matter what it is, pick your poison. You know, if you're knocking it out in one, there's going to be one that the enemy's going to come at you at. And whenever he does, he's going to try to disrupt it. If you stay the course and you defeat that giant and you make it through that battle, guess what's going to happen? There's going to be another battle. And it's going to be in a different area of your life. It's going to be in an area that's been untested, I feel like, or uncharted, where you've never been in that situation before. Because, that, you know, kind of like what you were saying, if you've been in that battle before, then you're going to praise God and be like, well, I already know the outcome of this battle. But if you're facing a battle, let's just be real. If you're facing a battle you've never been in before, your faith to me is going to be a lot more rubbery or you know, something like that versus what it would be if you've seen it before, you know. And
if you've seen victory in your health, but all of a sudden you're filing bankruptcy, you know, like
exactly.
It's going to be a little
now
bit.
Your faith is going to be shaken. Like, wait a minute, you know, like I've never been here before. This is uncharted territory. So how can God work and move in this, or how can I overcome this to get back to a point of full victory?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think there's. I was thinking, you know, to this one of the songs that we sang today. You know, as we're talking about all this, one of the songs the worship team played, "Sea of Victory." You know, it really tied into this message. You know, it's a song that means a lot to me. It's a song that, you know, it kind of came out at a time in my life when I wasn't seeing a lot of victory. You know, I started listening to it a lot around when COVID was going on. You know, there was a lot of hopelessness. There was a lot of, you know, and I was experiencing a lot of loneliness, a lot of confusion. You know, I was going through college, trying to finish that up. COVID was going on, you know, all kinds of crazy stuff. You know, I was trying, you know, waiting to enter this new big chapter of my life after graduate, you know, I was going to graduate college. You know, and I was getting, you know, I was in a stage of loneliness. You know, I didn't know if I'd ever find somebody or something, you know, to fill voids and all these sorts of things. And, you know, and that song was the song I remember singing. I had about a 30-minute drive back from Bardstown back then. And, you know, I would play that song on repeat, you know, on the way back. It was my like nightly routine because, you know, I it's one of those things, you know, I think you can say something enough to where, you know, you're going to believe it. And that's what I kind of got in the mindset of, you know, if I sing this enough, you know, God, or, you know, the devil's not going to be able to use it against me. You know, in this song, you know, it says, you know, though the weapon may be formed, it shall not prosper. And it says, you know, he takes, you know, Jesus takes what the enemy meant for evil and turns it for good. Yeah. You know, and it's just this repetitive line. I'm going to see a victory. I'm going to see a victory because the battle belongs to the Lord. You know, and these things that I was dealing with at the time, these things that I was struggling with at the time, you know, I just spoke that over my life time and time again. You know, just trying to fight this spiritual battle of, you know, like I'm dealing and struggling with loneliness. You know, again, we talk about, you know, people may use pornography, they may use alcohol, drugs, or whatever to fill that void that loneliness has in their life. Yeah. You know, and I was trying to cover that void, you know, and fight that battle spiritually by speaking victory, by believing in victory, that, you know, this time of loneliness, God was going to take this battle I'm in right now and turn it for good one day. Yeah. You know, what the enemy was trying to defeat me with, God was going to bring victory in one day. You know, and again, you know, I've seen that, you know, I've been married for, you know, 2 years now, and I've been with, you know, the same person for a very long time, it feels like, but, I'm just kidding. But
he was not just kidding until I started laughing. Just saying.
But again, you know, it's just, you know, I can say, you know, without a shadow of doubt, you know, and again, this is a random thing that not a lot of people know about, you know, my wife and I, but, you know, again, it was that, you know, I may have been trying to see other people, and then, you know, I sang the song again every time I'm coming home from work, and then God one night said, hey, talk to this person. I'm like, I've talked to this person 3 times before and didn't want nothing to do with me. Why would I talk to this person again? And God's like, just do it. And again, this is one of those nights that I was sitting there in my car praying on the way back home, and I was like, God, I don't know, what I'm supposed to do here. Nothing that feels quite right. These people that I've been hanging out with just doesn't feel right, doesn't click. And God's like, talk to this person. Yeah. And that is one of the, I would say, one of the first times in my life that I can remember like the audible voice of God in my head saying, do this. Yeah. And again, that was it was, at the time it didn't seem like much, but now looking back on it, that was such a precipice moment in my life, such a turning point. Yeah. That my obedience to message my now wife that night just turned into now we've been married, we have a kid, we're getting a house, I don't feel that loneliness anymore. I have joy, I have victory in that part of my life because I spoke it, I believed it, I had faith in it that God was going to turn this battle into a victory. And I think there's many things in our lives right now that we're dealing and struggling with. And I know that was a very, very quick short notes version or whatever of my testimony there, but there are things that we're dealing with, things that we're fighting and struggling with. And that song, again, it means a lot to me, but I think it should speak to so many different people. Yeah. That we're fighting battles every single day, but we can't be trying to cover those battles with things of this world that are shifty. I think I had the conversation downstairs on Wednesday night. We were talking about not blending in and not conforming to the world. And this was a conversation back in Exodus where God told the Israelites, like, hey, don't meddle with these people, kick them out, don't make treaties with them, don't get, because they had things, different gods, rituals, prostitution, all these sorts of things that they were using to cover up these voids in their life, these things that they didn't have. And God was like, if you spend time around these people, you're going to want to do what they're doing. Yeah. You're going to want to, watch pornography. You're going to want to drink alcohol. You're going to want to do this. You're going to want to do that because that's what they're doing. Yeah. We neglect the power of influence. And which again just comes back to, what are you listening to on a daily basis? Are you listening to something? This is going to go back all the way to what you were talking about at the beginning there, about, are you spending time in the Word to get encouragement when you don't feel encouraged? Right. Are you spending time praising God and praying to God when you feel alone and you don't know what's going on?
Or what is your priorities, basically?
Exactly. Where are your priorities in this situation? If you want to get out of this battle, if you want to see victory in this battle, you have to start operating in victory. Right. You have to start doing things that's going to, and again, it may not be popular, telling your kid you can't go to sports practice tonight because we have to go to church because we're struggling with sickness or finances or anything like that. Yeah. That's not comfortable. That's not conforming to the world. That's standing out for God. Yeah. But again, you have to be willing, and as we say time and time again lately, you have to be willing to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. You have to be willing to do things that aren't normal, that aren't what society expects or aren't what your kids want or what your spouse wants or this, that, and the other. You have to be willing to step out in faith that this battle is not going to be the end of you and that God has better in store for you, but you have to fill yourself with, I say it all the time, but I had to listen to that song on repeat for months until, I finally saw that victory. And it wasn't an easy thing at the time, but I look back now and I don't, it almost seems like nothing, right. Because of the victory that I am living in now because of my faith in the middle of it.
Yeah. And to kind of, I know we're going to shift gears really quick, kind of shut down, bring it all together, whatever you want to call it type situation. But in Luke chapter 9, which is how we kind of ended service today as well, Jesus looks at his disciples before he sends them out, and he says, don't take anything with you. Don't take any food. Don't take any money. Don't take it. He told them not to even take a change of clothes with them. He said, whenever you go out and you speak this word of God and you tell people about me, then if you go into their home, he said, if they are accepting and you go into their home, then, he was making a way through that home to be blessed, to bless them physically, financially, emotionally, spiritually, whatever the case was. And for us, what I tried to convey the message of today was that just because we lack it doesn't mean it's a need. Just because we don't have it doesn't mean it's a need. And so for us to look at situations and be like, well, I don't have, and I know this is going to be crazy. And I feel like the deeper that I get in ministry, faith, just walks with Jesus, whatever, like I feel like more and more, I feel like just being this crazy person. I don't know. But anyways, if you're looking and going, well, I don't have enough food to get me through till tomorrow. you're going to think I'm crazy, but that's not a need. It's a need to need him more, is how we kind of ended service today. It's a need to need him more. If you don't have enough food in your home to survive through the day, it's not a need. I don't need more food. I need more God. I need more faith in Jesus to provide an answer. You know what I'm saying? I need more. I need more faith that He is working this battle out, and I'm going to get through it. Do I need more? The answer is always I need more money. If I get more money, then all of my problems, all of my needs will be met. If you get more money and your needs are met, then your God becomes money and not God. But if you trust God through the process of needing more money and God supplies your needs through another avenue, it may be money. It may that, again, we joke about it so often. I get it. I understand it. But let me say this. There are people out there that have the means and authority to write a check, to go to the bank, I know you've said it too, and be like, you know what? I'm going to bless you today. I'm going to bless you. I'm going to take care of it. And see, in that moment, not only is that person being blessed, but the person you're giving to is being blessed. But see, it also sets up a process where it's like, you know what? Now that person is not dependent upon money, but that person is dependent upon, you know what? God heard me and answered my prayer through somebody else. And so now your God is not money, but your God is the God who used somebody to bless you with. That's a whole nother topic. Anyways, I'll get back on it really quick. But we look at life and we're like, well, we need money, or we need a car, or we need a house, or we need food, or I need a new job, or I need a spouse, or I need I need this, or I need that. And kind of going back to what you were saying about praying there at the end, it's not the fact of that we have a need, it's that we have a greater need for Him. And the more that we trust and rely upon Him to come through on the process and to make good on His promises and to show up in the middle of our battle, as we said today at the end of service, I feel like our needs will disappear in the process. Our needs will disappear because now He becomes our need. And if He becomes our need, then His ways we are now trying to emulate. And His ways were what? You will be known by the way that you love me and the way that you love other people. Well, then we have this process of where we're loving God in such a way that we want His ways to become our ways. And His way is what? Well, let's go back and look really quick. We'll call them the 10 Commandments, the 10 bullet points, whatever. What's the very first one, Nick, so I can let you chime in really quick? What's the very first one?
First commandment? Thou shalt not kill?
No, absolutely not. No, thou shalt not put any other God before me. That's number one. That's number one on the list. So here's the deal. If we shall not put any God before Him in the process, what does that mean? It means that we're going to love Him and position Him first in our lives no matter what. And if we love Him and position Him, the one who says, what? I will supply all of your needs according to my glorious riches in Christ Jesus. He will supply our every need. It says that it will be shaken together, right? Pushed together, shaken together, pressed down, running over, all of that. Again, good stuff to shout about. But we have to understand that there's a battle that takes place in all of this. And the battle is not, the need is not, oh, Lord, get me through the battle. The need is, Lord, I trust you through the battle. That's the need. And the more that we realize that He is the need within our lives, the more our needs will be met in the process. Take us out, man. Anything else you got?
Anything else I got? Well, if you got about 30 more minutes.
No, we don't.
No, we do not.
Three. We got three.
No, I mean, I think it's important as we're kind of drawing it all back in together. You're going to face battles, you're going to face trials, tribulations. It's part of being a Christian, and it's part of not being a Christian. I think no matter what walk of life, it doesn't matter how much money you make, it doesn't matter, who you're with, it doesn't matter what's going on. You're going to have struggles, you're going to have trials and tribulations. But what separates Christians from the rest of the world is a hope and faith that no matter what we go through, no matter what we're dealing with, God is our answer. God is our provider. God will take care of us. God is our victor. We have victory through Christ. We have a hope and I think you said it, during service today, we don't know how, I mean, we talk about it all the time. We don't know how people without God are making it right now.
Truly, I
mean, there's fear of war in the Middle East or war in Europe, or, there's been COVID and all that kind of stuff that was going on, and political turmoil here in the United States. Gas is going through the roof again. We have taxes going crazy. We have this, that, and the other, all kinds of crazy, horrible, no good, very bad things, just like Alexander in his old book.
But the terrible, horrible, right, no good, very bad.
Exactly. There's horrible stuff going on right now, and I actually had this conversation with someone in my office the other day. About we don't understand how people without God make it right now, because if I didn't have God, if I didn't have hope that everything was going to turn out for me one day, if I didn't have hope and faith that God was going to get me through to the other side, if I didn't have hope and faith that God was my provider,
absolutely,
not that it's not that I have hope and faith that I'm going to be a rich millionaire and everything I ever want is going to be mine. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying, it would be nice.
Yeah,
it would be nice if anybody wants to write that check. But what we're saying is that no matter what comes our way, we're going to be provided for because God is our provider.
Right.
We are trusting and having faith that God is going to take care of us somehow, some way. We think about all the times that God has been good to us. We have food to eat, we have things to drink. We have things to drink. We can take hot showers. We have indoor plumbing. We have sheets and multiple different outfits to wear every single day. We have vehicles. We have gas for those vehicles. We have air in the tires. We have working batteries, and we have all these different things. We all have smartphones. We all have data plans. We can all afford these things. We all have, some of us have jobs that God has given us. And, we all have so many different things that, we often neglect because we want better, and we're ungrateful with the fact that God has given us enough right now to survive, enough right now to make it. Now, again, I do believe, and there's another song out there right now that I like a lot, but it's just basically saying that I was made for more, and there's another song, I think it's about casting crowns. We weren't called to just survive. We were made to thrive, and I do believe that, but there's so many of us that are living in death, living in those battles, living in fear, living in anxiety, that we aren't living in the victory of Christ. We aren't believing and having faith in who He is and what He can do for us.
Right.
We're letting other things get the best of us. We're letting things distract us. We're not being committed. We're not being consistent. We're not being passionate for what God has called us to be consistent and passionate over. And we're not going to see success. We're not going to see victory if we're not living in what God has, planned and prepared for us. If we're not leaning on Him and resting in Him and trusting in Him, we're not going to see the more. We're not going to see the thrive. We have to trust God to help us survive before we can trust God to help us thrive.
Right.
And I think we get that backwards, and we're not very good at it. But I want us to get better at it. I want to get better at it. This whole conversation we've been having is things that I'm struggling with. And just as he says all the time, we struggle in the middle of these battles. We struggle with understanding the purpose. We struggle. I ask myself all the time. Those questions you were just saying. Why is this happening to me? What is going on? What am I doing wrong? Am I not doing enough? Am I not doing this, that, or the other? We ask ourselves those questions all the time. But again, what it comes down to is, as you said, and what we talked about at the end of service, is needing and wanting and asking for more of God. Saying, again, and as I was at this altar today praying and over it, I was saying, God, I want more of you over my finances. I want more of you over my health. I want more of you over my family. I want more of you over this, that, and the other. And I think that's where we need to start asking, not asking for more money, not asking for a better this, that, or the other, but asking that God becomes God over those things, and that God takes care of those things, and, and garners those things, and He treats us, with the love that, we want so desperately from Him.
So we love you. Yeah. See you. Man, you went 2 minutes over. That was almost 5 minutes, man. But
send me to hell.
I know, right? We'll pray you out, man. We'll reach you out. So we love you guys so much. Again, thank you so much. As we always say before we end every episode, we hope and pray that something's been said in the time frame that we have here to maybe change a heart, change a life. If it has, man, please do not hesitate to reach out. Please do not hesitate to leave a message. You can go to our Nick. Just tell them a couple ways really quick that they can connect with us.
With the podcast, we have our email, fruitionchurchky@gmail.com. You can reach out to us there. We both have Facebook, so you can reach out to. You can message Facebook or message Fruition Church on Facebook.
True.
Or Instagram. You can message Keenan on TikTok. You can rate and review the podcast episodes. You can click the follow button button on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can, rate, like I said, rate and review the episodes. You can just shoot us an email, message us. You can comment, share the video that we post, or when we share the post on Fruition Church's Facebook page. There's so many different ways. And again, we talk about all the time. Numbers isn't what we're after, but we do want to reach as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And as I tell, I'm in marketing, and I tell the people that come in for New Hire Orientation, I'm like, you guys are mini marketers. You have an audience that you can reach that I haven't been able to reach yet. And if you share my stuff, if you share our stuff, my organization stuff that I work for, if you share the church's stuff, you have a chance to reach people who need to hear about Jesus, who need to hear what we have to say in this podcast, or what God has to say through us in this podcast.
Yeah.
And same thing goes with church services on Sundays or Wednesday nights, whatever it may be. And so we hope that you are willing. I mean, that's not a very difficult thing to do. We're hoping that you're able to at least hit that share button. If you've listened to this whole thing, then surely to goodness you're committed enough to like follow through with a rate or with a like and a share and and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So again, help us out in that manner. I'll do a quick shout out because she does it every week. But my mother-in-law Julie always shares the podcast after she listens to it, and tries to encourage people to listen to it.
Your mom
as well.
does too, man.
My mom actually does.
The woman who birthed you and stuff.
Yeah, she does,
so,
but she just doesn't comment much on it. She just says, "Here it is." I don't even know if she watches it. But again, she still shares it. And if you can watch it and listen to it, then you could definitely share it.
Proud of my boy.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But again, that's a really long spiel just to say, we hope that you are invested enough to invest in us, and so that other people can also invest and hear more about Jesus, or hear it in a new and different way that may encourage and motivate them and inspire them and bring them closer to Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to know if you're changing your life or not. That's all I want to know.
Are we making a difference?
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, man, just, hook up with us. Let us know what's going on. If you're enjoying this whole situation, if this has helped you in some way, shape, form, or fashion, man, it's always good to hear feedback like that. So we love you so much. We thank you so much. And until we see you again, be blessed.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
As always, this is PKR, and for my sidekick Nick, we say thank you very much for hitting that download button on People Suck, Love Them Anyways. Be sure to tell a friend, tell a family member to hit that download button as well. And as always, we say thank you. Be blessed.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, go.